So L.T. Davis and John Walker got the idea of starting the Chamber of Commerce to try and see what they could do to kind of pick things up, and probably what, personally would help their sales in real estate. But things were pretty dull, pretty bad, so we did that. And one of the things that the Chamber decided to do was have some kind of a festival. Nobody knew what kind of festival. I think somebody, LT may have said, well, maybe a mesquite bean cook-off. Something going on. And I came up with the idea of a storytelling festival. And everybody asked, well, how did you do that? I have absolutely no clue how I did it. It just sounded like it would work. I mean, we grew up, this is J. Frank Dobie area. You go down to the cafe, there's always people telling stories. That's how we entertained everybody. But I grew up with Rocky Reagan, my great-great uncle. And we were little, and everybody would gather for the family gatherings. He would always say, okay, gather all the kids up, I'm going to tell a story. So all us kids would gather around. And normally, you get a bunch of young kids gathered up, the parents are relieved, and they're going to go do some parent things that they haven't had to watch the kids get in trouble. But I noticed all of the parents would circle around the kids because they also wanted to hear Uncle Rocky's stories. And so that's when I learned early on that storytelling wasn't just for kids, but for grown-ups. And so that's what we decided that sounded like a good theme for the festival. And so LT put me in charge. I had no clue whatsoever how to do a festival, how to get entertainers, any of that. So we started a meeting. Mackie was at one of the first meetings at my Aunt Betty's house and said, anybody interested in this? It sounds good. Everybody said, yeah. So at that point, I had to start researching. Through connections, I got a hold of Joanne and Dara, who does the Texas Folklife Festival. Because I was asking questions and do it right, she met with me, and I could have stayed there for days listening to her, learning from her. And that got me into the Texas Festival Association, which we've been a part of since. I also talked with this fellow named Robert Keene that I'd gotten to know. And he said, yeah, that sounded like a good idea. It was on a Sunday. He was playing at Green Hall, and he was flying out to California. Several days later, I get this envelope in the mail. Of course, back then, you could address it to Rob Schneider, George West, and it would get to you. And it was a letter that he had written me. It said I was flying to the festival, and they had this article. I think it was in the Braniff magazine that they have in the airlines, and it was all about the National Association. What was the long? It's a long National Association and for perpetuation of all. It was this 5-foot-long name for that's the National Storytelling Association. And through that, I got a hold of them, got a hold of Elizabeth Ellis, Finley Stewart, Gail Ross. They all agreed to come, and that's how I found out we had actual professional storytellers. So then the question was, where are we going to do it, and what kind of shape was it going to be in? We chose around the courthouse. I wanted to have an idea where it was like an old country picnic, where everybody could gather. It was a safe place. Kids could play. Grown-ups could come. So we chose to have it here around the courthouse. The commissioners were excited about it. The city was excited about it, especially since somebody else was going to do the work. So we got it set up, worked with them, and got it laid out around here. Our initial stages were over on the other side of the courthouse. We built what was essentially the corner of a barn. That way, just kind of get the country feel of being there with sitting on a bale of hay, telling stories. The front of the courthouse, we built what was a front porch, somewhat of an homage to Robert Keene, but also of sitting on the front porch, telling stories, telling the grandkids, whatever. I wanted to get that kind of homey feel. And here was our primarily a music stage. L.T. Davis backed up and parked 2 big flatbed trailers in this area and sucked them together within 2 inches from each other. Is the most remarkable trailer backing job I have ever seen. We could have sold tickets to it. I mean, I just sat there in awe of it. I've never been able to back a trailer straight back, much less do something like that. So this set up as our music stage. And so we worked on a variety of things. We had storytellers, had people doing music. We also set it up where we had a lot of local tellers, not just the professionals coming in, but we recruited some local people to come tell stories of our history and all that. Now, you also have to get that many people. They need to eat. If like my family gathers, you're going to have food. So we needed to have that. So instead of getting professional or restaurants, no offense to restaurants, Mackie, but we wanted to have something set up for all of the nonprofits, the churches, the Lions clubs, the schools that normally are doing stuff to do fundraising, have a way for them to do some fundraising with this also. So we had all of the food booths were all going to be nonprofit set up. We would provide the booth for them so they would be able to do that and set it up. And we got that set up. And then we also got some craft people, put word out, got craft people so people could come buy stuff, kind of have that comfortable feel for all of it. And one of the things that we also stressed was no admission. We did set up for admission for the dance, but this was going to be where anybody could come and enjoy themselves. And we put the word out, kept our fingers crossed, had all kinds of ups and downs, and a tremendous amount of work. Actually, the state and federal prisons sent people to help. Larry had some people in the county jail that needed some work to do, keep them busy. They helped. So we had all kinds of resources. We stayed up late, put things together, built stages, set it up, and weather cooperated. And from what we guessed, we had more people come that day than the population of George West. And we had people coming from all over, Houston, Dallas, not just the storytellers, but people were coming to this and coming for the stories. And I think everybody was just looking to have something enjoyable. One of the things that we were told when I went to the festival people, they said, expect to lose money for the first 3 years. When we finished, because of donations, support from the bank, support from everybody, we had $500 in the bank ready to go for next year. So we started off good. And people kept coming back. The first time I went to the Festival Association, I was that irritating person going around asking people, how do you do this? How do you do that? The next year after Storyfest, when I went there, people were coming, how do you incorporate storytelling? How do you do storytelling in there? And actually would have to tell them how they can use storytelling in their festivals, how they can use it on the stage, and some of the things we learned, like being careful with your sound system. Because it turns out loud noise here bounces off those walls and drowns out the stage in front of the courthouse. Little detail we didn't know about till we got involved. So we've learned, we've progressed. I made the smart decision several years in to step out of running it and turning it over. I think Becky, or I can't remember if it was Becky, Rhonda Reiser, and then Becky, and then Mary Margaret have taken it over and have done wonderful things. We've learned a lot of things, like they have tents, which are amazing. And so we've just gone and progressed. For me, one of the long-term things that I've learned from it is just having a good idea, doing the research, putting in the hard work. You can make significant changes. And this went on 30 years. But we've had a lot of, with the chamber and everything, we've had a lot of things. We now have the Dobie Museum. That old theater has been redone. Unify to Beautify was a kind of sprung off of this, and that helped clean up the town, help perk things up. So it's just been a delight to see it happen and do that. And one of the greatest things for me personally was all the storytellers that I've gotten to know over the years and see and watch them through their careers. So that's I could go on and on about all the details and stuff. Y'all could all have a good nap. But I will now turn it over to Mary Margaret so she can kind of pick up after I've stepped down. Thank you.